Focused and fearless. Here's everything you need to know this rush hour of January 7, Tuesday. I'm Riza Diaz. Kicking off today's rush with the NCR police citing perceived threats as the reason for the change in the route of Traslacion. Filipino Star ngayon reports that the new route aims to prevent the sluggish pace of the procession, which could minimize risk, although no actual security threat has been mentioned. Now, this comes after the arrest of a suspected member of the Bangsamoro Islamic fighter who was caught in possession of explosive devices in Quezon City. Meanwhile, the annual pahalik has started last night. We'll check the latest on that later on the show. More front-page stories from the dailies. President Duterte has signed this year's 4.1 trillion peso national budget. Business World reports that this is the Duterte government's largest spending plan to date, with focus on social services and, of course, infrastructure. Social service comprised the largest chunk of the 2020 budget, with an allocation of 1.5 trillion pesos, some 170 billion pesos of which will go to the Universal Healthcare Program.
As in previous years, we will continue to allot a great portion of the national budget for infrastructure development and other social services, programs that will directly touch the lives of our people.
Now, this from the Philippine Star. As tension escalates between the United States and Iran, President Duterte urges Congress to hold a special session to discuss the situation in the Middle East. Duterte also ordered agencies to come up with a standby fund for the possible repatriation of 1.2 million Filipino workers there. However, Congress is still on a break and will resume session on January 20. And with that, let's get more on the story with this report from Patricia Mangune.
President Rodrigo Duterte called for an emergency meeting with Secretary Delfin Lorenzana and military and police heads Sunday afternoon. This is in light of the rising tensions between the Middle East and the United States. The president wants Filipinos in those countries secured, as they could be caught in the crossfire. He admits he fears for the Filipinos' lives.
Kinakabahan ako. Iran seems to be bent on a retaliation, which I think will come. It's a matter of time.
The president tells the Finance Department to provide funds for the repatriation of Filipinos in the Middle East. He also asks the Congress to hold special sessions to discuss the allocations for bringing back OFWs.
But ngayon, I suggest that Congress, even for about, bahala kang 1 or 2 days, discuss the problems, the ramifications.
The AFP says they're ready to deploy aircraft and naval ships to fetch Filipinos who wish to return to the country.
We are improving our plans not only on Iran and Iraq, but also to the whole Middle East. We do not know, it might spread to other countries, especially if you will know the history of the war, baka pumunta na Israel.
There are around 1,600 Filipinos in Iran and 6,000 in Iraq. AFP notes that they have not yet received any requests from the U.S. to deploy Filipino troops.
As of now, wala. Because our agreement with the United States doesn't cover that, yung mangyayari sa Middle East.
The PNP, meanwhile, is monitoring possible Iran and Iraq sympathizers in the country as they may exact retaliatory action in home soil. For News 5, Patricia Mangune. We are One News.
A failure. That's how Vice President Robredo described the administration's drug war during her report on the campaign yesterday. However, Palace believes her report was nothing but a dud. Marisol Halili has the story.
maraming salamat, Mr. President.
These might be words of gratitude from the Vice President for her 3-week stint as co-chairperson of the Interagency Committee on Anti-Illegal Drugs, or ICAD. But in her 40-page report on the drug war, she did not mince words.
Failure talaga siya. Gaya ng sinabi ko sa report na masyado lang natutukan yung street-level enforcement. Yung pagtugis sa mga maliliit na mga pushers at users. At kahit gawin ito araw-araw, kung hindi naman inaasikaso yung supply constriction na nanggagaling sa yung pagtugis ng mga malalaking mga suppliers.
To prove the point, Robredo used ICAD's own metrics, one of which is the PNP's estimate that 3,000 kilos of shabu valued at 25 billion pesos are consumed each week.
Pero ayon sa report ng PIDEA, mula Enero hanggang Oktubre 2019, nasa 1,344 kilong shabu lang ang nakuha nila. 1% lang ito ng kabuuang konsumo sa buong bansa.
Robredo added that based on an Anti-Money Laundering Council report, government was only able to freeze 1.4 billion pesos in drug assets, hence a measly rating from the VP.
Isipin na lang natin kung exam ito, ang magiging score ng ating pamahalaan ay 1/100.
But she clarified she's not putting the anti-drug effort in a bad light. She just wanted to make recommendations, like placing the ICAD under the Dangerous Drugs Board so that the PIDEA can focus on law enforcement. She also called on a stop to Oplan Tokhang and for authorities to come out with operational guidelines to prevent abuses. Robredo admitted though there are sensitive information, she's not at liberty to divulge, as these cannot be independently verified. Presidential spokesperson Sal Panelo simply brushed off Robredo's dismal rating.
The fact remains that we have dismantled so many drug factories, illegal drug factories.
Panelo said there's nothing new about Robredo's statement, even accusing her of grandstanding.
I think she just wants to be relevant. Pero prior to that, di ba, bagsak siya ng bagsak, pababa ng pababa. Dapat nga, nagpapasalamat siya kay Presidente.
For News 5, Maricel Halili, we are One News.
Health officials are now urging airport personnel to implement stricter monitoring of passengers, especially those coming from China, which is now battling a mysterious pneumonia virus. Gerard de la Peña has the report.
Sensitive thermal scanners greet arriving passengers at the Ninoy Aquino International Airport, detecting those who have fever, cough, or cold. Passengers found to be sick for quite some time are sent to the San Lazaro Hospital or the Research Institute for Tropical Medicine for further examination. The Bureau of Quarantine personnel are on alert for passengers that may bring back the mysterious respiratory disease that originated from Wuhan in central China. At first, it was thought to be the resurgence of severe acute respiratory syndrome or SARS, but was later found out to be some form of viral pneumonia.
As of now, yung reports from China kasi hindi pa nila matukoy kung ano talaga yung source ng virus na to. Pero to be careful, yung ating Bureau of Quarantine naka-alert na ngayon sa China, sa Hong Kong.
The Sars epidemic affected 26 countries in 2003 and resulted in more than 8,000 cases. Other parts of the world are also implementing stricter airport protocols according to some of the passengers.
Minonitor lang kami nung palabas kami sa Taiwan airport. We could see that somebody was, yung thermostat.
Ganun lang po.
Yun lang. But no other additional questions or anything.
China lang, ang dami niyang checking. Siguro mga 3 bago kami nakalabas.
At least, dire-diretso lang din na kami. Okay, basta kailangan lang yung walang magkasakit.
A quarantine personnel said they have not sent any passenger to government facilities for further check-up. Just to be safe, the health department urged the public to refrain from traveling to China, at least for now. But in case it is absolutely necessary to fly to China, DOH advises everyone to practice proper hygiene by making sure to wash their hands and to wear a face mask. For News 5, Gerard de la Peña, we are One News.
At least 300 Filipinos from Victoria and New South Wales have been evacuated as Australia's deadly bushfires continue. Marlene Alcaide reports.
It was Christmas Day when it started to rain in some fire-ravaged communities of Australia. But the rain did not stop the bushfire in New South Wales. At least 140,000 residents and thousands of tourists were evacuated in what they call the biggest peacetime evacuations in history. Koalas were also rescued. Kangaroos were seen trying to escape, but not all survived the blazes.
We can't be complacent. The fire season will last until at least the end of March, and given weather conditions could even be beyond that time. So our focus has to remain on ensuring we contain the fires, we protect life and property.
This cloud formation is noticeable where the massive bushfire is. Called pyrocumulonimbus, or rain clouds that was induced from the fire smoke, this brought little rain, which some deemed as dangerous for it packs lightning that can spark new fires. This weekend, air quality index in the capital city Canberra reached 340, a very unhealthy level which is already twice the bad air quality recorded in Beijing. Neighboring countries are also feeling the pinch, with smoke already reaching New Zealand. Sydney remains safe from the devastation, but the heat in the area has reached 45 degrees Celsius. Prime Minister Scott Morrison visited those affected residents, but he was only heckled by angry residents for what they say was his failure to act on climate change.
I'm only shaking your hand if you give more funding to our RFS. So many people here have lost their homes.
The Philippine Embassy sent a 4-man team to the affected Filipinos in Australia. An estimated 300 Filipinos from Victoria and New South Wales were evacuated, while 5 lost their homes due to the fire.
Around 5 homes were burned, pero the 300 who were evacuated is more like a precautionary measure.
There were no reported casualties or injured among the Filipino community. For News 5, Marlene Alcaide, we are One News.
It wasn't all just glitz and glam at the 77th Golden Globe Awards, as the Australian bushfire and other issues also took center stage. Through host Jennifer Aniston and Reese Witherspoon, Best Actor for a mini-series, Russell Crowe made sure everybody knew about the fires and that the incidents were about were climate-based.
We need to act based on science, move our global workforce to renewable energy, and respect our planet for the unique and amazing place it is.
Now, on the other hand, the Best Actress for a series, Michelle Williams, highlighted a different issue and encouraged women to vote for themselves.
So, women 18 to 118, when it is time to vote, please do so. And don't forget, we are the largest voting body in this country. Let's make it look more like us.
Circling back to our top story, church officials started the annual Pahalik Days earlier than usual. Now, to tell us why, JC Cosico, is reporting live at the Quirino Grandstand. JC, we would like to know the latest situation.
Riza, days before the actual procession of the Black Nazarene on January 9, Quiapo Church officials have opened their doors to devotees of this year's Pahalik.
One of the early birds in this year's Pahalik was 77-year-old Luz Viminda Trinidad, who had to be rolled in by a wheelchair. Due to rheumatism brought by old age, Nanay Luz Viminda is now having troubles walking. But according to her, that didn't stop her from still expressing devotion through honoring the Black Nazarene.
Nagpupunta kami lagi dyan. Last year, nandyan din kami. Lahat ng binihingi ko sa kanya, binibigay niya kahit ano. Kahit yung ganito, hindi ako makalakad. May dahilan siya dyan. Parang maligaya ako. Pagka ganun, parang nagiginhawaan ako. Parang maligaya ako. Maligaya ako pag nakapunta ako sa kanya.
Meanwhile, the Pahalik has become a family affair for this traffic enforcer. Jonathan Due says he and his family went ahead early to avoid the sea of devotees expected later throughout the day.
Almost 10 years, nandito kami laging pamilya.
Sir, ngayon po, mas inagahan na
organize? Bukas talaga naka-full tasking na kami.
This year, organizers decided to hold the Pahalik days ahead of the Traslacion on January 9 to avoid big crowds which usually flock the icon a day before the actual procession.
para hindi po yung crowd, hindi po dumami po yung mga parishioner sa pahalik po. Kaya may iwasan po natin yung pagdami po ng kasi pag nag-start pa po tayo ng A8 po, so bali dadami po yung crowd.
Orange plastic barriers are already set in place to guide devotees in Quirino Grandstand. There will also be a designated area for the elderly, pregnant women, and persons with disabilities. First aid stations are also on standby for devotees in need of medical help. Police surveillance and monitoring are also being implemented, with around 300 officers deployed in the area as of the moment.
Kalat yan siya. Dito sa may grandstand nasa mga 65 to 70 yan, 'di ba? So iba naman yung nandiyan sa may plaza, 'di ba? Iba naman yung nasa mga kanto. Kasi makita niyo sa lahat na intersections, nilagyan na rin. Meron din kaming plain clothes na nag-iikot din, nag-o-observe.
At the same time, the NCRPO also has some reminders for those wanting to join the pahalik and the procession on Thursday.
Kung pwede, walang bata. Pero kung magdala kayo ng bata, bantayan nyo lang talaga. No? Pangalawa, yung mga backpacks. No? Dapat mas maganda yung clear backpacks pa rin. Of course, yung mga sharp objects, knives, anything, bawal po talaga yan. Bawal din magkalat. No? Sabi ni Mayor, di ba? So kung magdala kayo ng gamit nyo, tubig, pagkain, so kung dalhin nyo na pagbalik nyo.
Riza, the party started at 6 p.m. last night, and the annual Traslacion will begin here at the Quirino Grandstand before it makes its way back to the Quiapo Church. Riza?
Thank you. That was JC Cosico reporting live from Manila. And that's how the day is shaping up to be. Join us again next time for another round of Rush. I'm Riza Diaz. We are One News.